everyone. Welcome back in.
Happy New Year's Eve. I don't even care anymore. I'm gonna fix it somehow, some way. It's my only goal in life. It's my New Year's resolution is to find the master of that clip. If you listen in podcast form, it doesn't matter.
No idea what we're talking about.
You can't see that at the end of the clip that we play, it says Valero Open DFS preview. I cannot find the master copy of that, nor do I have the know-how or ability to create that. So we're just stuck with that. But yeah, we'll just get right into it because honestly,
transparency purposes, I tried to replace it, and now we have state-of-the-art AI. The AI was too AI. We can't figure it out. I do like the intro beats. We'll figure it out. But like you said, podcasts, no one even knows what we're talking about. They just are here for the Sentry. We're back. I would love to say that I missed you, Andy. Really outside of my wife and children. Maybe Connor. You're definitely in my, inner circle of people that I talk to every day. So I don't even get a chance to miss you. But it's good to be back, and it's good to talk big boy golf, because we were here in the fall. We were doing this in the fall, but now we have, for the most part, everyone back for our first Siggy of the year. Of course, we don't have Scotty Scheffler, but how we doing, bud?
Yeah, it is odd that it's a signature event, and if you did need to understand that there's going to be some switching around of that, but for the most part, I feel like this is always going to be a signature, along with the other hosted events. And when I mean that, I mean the Genesis hosted by, I'm going to do your quiz. The Genesis hosted by Ryan
Eldrick.
The Arnold Palmer hosted by,
his estate.
His estate, and the Memorial.
Jacks.
So those three are hosted by someone. It feels like those are always going to be stuck as signature events, and then the Sentry probably as well, just because where it sits in the calendar. It's the opener. It's going to be all the big names that aren't cutting their hands open are going to Dubai, and then the rest are going to pop around a little. The other four this year: AT&T, the RBC, the Truist. Which, if you're confused what the fuck that means, it is the Wells Fargo. They changed sponsors. Also, not at Quail Hollow this year, because Quail Hollow is a major event. So the Truist will be played at a course in Philadelphia. I jotted some notes down about that in the newsletter a few weeks ago. And the Travelers is your final. So it's your first signature event. There's 60 men and $20 million. It's a big purse. Most one and dones don't start quite yet, so you don't have to worry about that. You only have the 7 signatures to deal with. And like you said, Scotty cut his hand doing dishes, got some glass in there, had to have some surgery 3 to 4 weeks out. Victor Hovland is a broken toe. Rory is in. It's funny, as much as Rory was this mouthpiece against Piff and everything, Live, he has spent every January in Saudi Arabia for quite a while. Who's the other one that always play? Fleetwood's over there, and then
Sugar Shane's over there too.
Lowry as well, that would have been playing at this based on the criteria, but aren't. Not to say that this isn't a very high level field. Xander's your favorite now, and there's still plenty of big names. A lot of cool names of guys who got in from winning events, whether it was during the tour year where they had an alt event or a fun win in a big boy event, or some of the swing season stuff too, including the first guy ever to win 2 events, one as an amateur, one as a pro during the same year, apparently, which is pretty cool.
Just turned 21. Yeah, it's hard not to. Really, outside of talking about Nick Dunlap, outside of really the majors, I guess. FedEx St. Jude, first round of the playoffs, probably the best field we get in golf. Right, because it's top 5 for Nick Dunlap. So this is going to be a real interesting year for you, because I'm sure you loved to get that. You couldn't wait. We're less than 5 minutes into the first 2025 show, and you took your first shot to dunk on Rory that you possibly could have. Hypocrite. He starts his year in Dubai. This is a real interesting Rory year, Andrew. He owns Quail Hollow. And we got a PGA championship shifted to Quail Hollow this year. We're going back to Portrush in Ireland for the Open Championship. I feel like Oakmont's a good spot for Roars. It's going to be a very interesting year to be a Rory hater. You're either going to be, man, you're going to be so excited because he's going to like absolutely brick these layups, or you're come up a little bit.
If he wins, he wins. And if he wins, I can just say, well, of course. They just set it up perfectly for him. It's the same thing we did with Xander. Like, hey, Xander can't win a major. Xander can't win a major. How can we get Xander to win a major? Oh, I know. We have a major at a non-major track in Valhalla, which is basically the worst thing we've ever done to any of the majors. And then Xander followed it up. He consolidated serve. So I do like Xander. And I'm softening on Rory, but there is a weird schadenfreude I enjoy with him because he is so memeable when he has those things. I want to find a place, maybe forecasters or somebody will let me put a prop up and wager. I'm like, I want a bet that Rory, mixing them up with my Bears punters, T2 or solo second in all 4 majors. He's good enough. He should be in the top 5.
He is.
There's a lot of other good golfers, and let's not forget, we're going to have some of the live guys as well, and then a couple of those guys are playing well. But yeah, we start here in beautiful Maui. As I bring up every year, it's a course I played. If you ever want to get a sense for how bad you are at golf, go shoot 115 on a course that is the most embarrassingly easy course on tour. It is by just strokes, not strokes gained, but like strokes under par per round. This is the easiest stop we'll see all year. It's like 3.5 on average. The winner has been 34 under at one point. We've had a couple that have danced right around 30. Obviously, a few years ago, we did have the wind kick up pretty big, and it was 14 under. But, I mean, it's wide fairways, big greens, putting contest.
Yeah, I mean, you got to flex. You played this track. I mean, it's a good annual flex.
It's the only time I've ever spent real money on golf. I try to spend like $25 on a Sunday afternoon twilight round, buddy.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a par 73. When you give these guys an extra par 5, this is what you're going to have happen. In big forgiving fairways, rolling terrain too. So you get the extra rollout. Ron had a stat in his preview. 27 of the top 30 longest drives of the year last year were at this course. 27 of the top 30. It's just they play a lot of golf on tour. The fact that, you only had 3 other instances where, someone caught a bounce or, wind to be competitive with these drives at this place is pretty wild. And again, big old greens.
Hand up. Was this where the DJ drive was?
Yes. This is the DJ
where it just kept rolling and it's like, this went 422 yards or whatever.
Yeah. Almost winning.
There are some of these greens where it's like, oh, it's just going to keep rolling. It'll actually roll up onto the green if you get a good rollout.
Yeah. And then you get the wind in your favor occasionally too. And then, you catch a good bounce and all of a sudden, it's all shaved Bermuda for the most part around the greens. So you're not really having any sort of apron to catch anything either. Like the ball can continue to roll. So, in terms of what the course is asking you, it's, driver heavy with very low missed fairway penalty. You can grip it and rip it. You're going to have a lot of distribution of approach shots from less than 100 yards and in. Some, pretty actually decent amount from 200 plus as well. We can look at that. We actually a new tool on the site that just went live this morning that we can kind of kick around for the first time and see how that looks. Get an understanding about actually what the numbers bear out for that too. And you got to putt, to Andy's point. If you're going to get into the high 20s or 30s, I mean, we're probably an event that we would, building a model would probably weigh putting more than almost any other time in the year because you just are almost non-competitive if you can't get hot with the putter. So spike putting makes more so than anything. But let's jump into some of the data. Anything else you want to add when I bring this up?
No, a couple little things I've noticed doing some research this week. Like you said, there's going to be some approach shots that are wedge. I mean, wedge shots where
Oh yeah.
it's going to blur the lines between around the green and short approach shots.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think it's going to be a little tricky with some of that. It's not all the holes, but there's going to be somewhere it's close enough where it's counted as an around the green, stat, where it's actually that's their approach shot.
Yeah.
Because we do have some pretty easy holes. You have some very drivable holes. So it gets a little ticklish on that, whereas I don't think around the green is actually important here, but it kind of comes into play because some of those approach shots just turn into that. Whereas, in a normal golf tournament, a tough course, let's say, around the green is more of, hey, these are postage stamps. We can't hit these greens. You have to be on point with your pitch and putt. You have to get up and down for pars so you can score on the 3 scoreable holes here at this awful course. Obviously not the same. The around the green stuff is pitching for birdie, pitching for eagle so you can putt for birdie on a lot of these. So a little something to look at that. And like you said, we can look at a couple of the buckets on approach as well.
Yeah, I've been thinking about the modeling on the entire process a little bit more, and listening to some more people talk about stuff too. And this goes back to like the putting splits on surfaces versus just putting baseline stuff. I feel like I don't know why I heard it, and then I feel like once you heard it, it's like confirmation bias. I'm hearing it even more. Golfers talking about when they're looking at putting splits or looking at grass splits, they care more about, like, they think there's a bigger edge. And I've heard it from Scotty. I think I heard it from Xander. I want to start looking at, when I'm looking at around the green and short game stuff, I want to start looking at grass surfaces for that, because I think that matters even more so or equal to putting. And I may think that might be an edge because you don't really hear that talked about a lot in content. I don't think you hear that, in terms of how anyone's handicapping stuff. I think there's definitely a difference between chipping on Bermuda or chipping on bent grass, how that ball releases. So it's kind of a combination of short game putting and chipping. And I just don't think, when we're looking at around the green splits, we're not typically taking into consideration what the agronomy is. And I think it actually matters more so than we think. So that's something that I'm going to try to incorporate to see if there's some, maybe it's noisy, because around the green can be noisy in general, but maybe there's some there that needs to be kind of dug into a little bit. But maybe this new course sheet will help us do that. Circle back real quick, back to the rabbit hole. If you hung out with Ron and I on the Monday show, First Look show yesterday, we ran through at the top some of the additions to the rabbit hole since the last time we were here regularly. And there's a lot. And again, we are going to continue to add hashtag no days off. Like, we are not done making this the absolute best statistical database for betting and DFS that you could possibly find. Feedback always welcomed, but there's a lot of new stuff. If you have questions, let us know. The ability to look at finishing positions through the lens of the rabbit hole, where you can like filter stuff out and add new things to it. Absolutely bonkers. The recent form page and tab that you can click here, they can just give you an understanding of how players have played recently. If you go into the tools section, you can go into the tournament cheat sheet, and that's going to give you the recent form along with course history. You can see here this basic strokes gain metrics, how someone's played over the last 6 rounds. But I mean, this is just one-stop shop to be able to look at, okay, here's the last handful of events, and then how they've played this course over the last handful of years. Really cool additions. And there's a bunch of them. Again, highly recommend checking out, the first bit of the Monday show to do that. Pretty sweet.
Honestly, full screen, and I wish it were bigger. I want it huge. I don't know why it doesn't go completely full screen.
I mean,
but it's close enough for me. I'm putting me, I might put me up here.
Yeah,
I want to see as much. I want to see as much of this as possible.
I mean, you can hide our faces. No one needs to see it. We know how good the shirt looks.
There we go. Look at that. Hide the faces. All right. So yeah, explain, if you are listening in podcast form, we have a nice little chart. It shows everybody's placement here, course history at this tournament. You can have that for every year. every field, every player, which is awful nice to kind of look at some of the guys. I mean, honestly, sometimes I just looked like who's played here the most. Even if some of the results have been middling to just slightly above average, it's nice to see someone who's played here over and over. And obviously, this one is a trickier one because it's not like, you can Monday qualify your way into the Tournament of Champions.
Correct.
You do have to meet some stringent criteria, and it used to be just straight up winning an event last year. So,
it's pretty sick.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to have in one
I
spot.
like this.
Again, just our goal was basically, and I've heard from people that love the site and like, yeah, I use you guys for this, and I'll use this site for that, and I'll use that site for this. And it's like, no, we're gonna, whatever that is, if we think it makes sense, we're gonna have it. And I think this is one of those tools where you can get a sense of that in one fell swoop. You don't have to shop around and jump all over the place. You can get a little bit of form in statistical metrics, form in terms of finishing positions, and then recent course history at the event as well, which I think is really, really, really cool. Another thing we're pretty stoked about that just went live this morning on the site. So forgive us, it's not. I don't think we should have necessarily turned it live yet, but I think it is going to be. That. Yeah, it's okay. We're going to walk through this here for the first time for you. This is up here, a little drop-down box. You can pick course. And again, if you want to find this tool up in the tools section, course stats. There are everything you could possibly want here. And we'll start here at Kapalua. Obviously, you get an idea of the course type, coastal island ocean resort, which is, again, something that you can find here in the rabbit hole if you're searching for course type and you want to get a little bit more information on that. A basic layout, par 73, about 7,600 from the tips. It's considered a long course. We're in Hawaii, obviously, and this is a core Crenshaw design if you wanted to get into the weeds of the golf architects. But you got a hole breakdown, so you get an understanding of the layout of each hole, scoring average, birdie rates, your par percentage, doubles, bogey or worse, all that is in here if you want it. Scroll down a little bit. Course metrics. This is what I was talking about here. So this little drop down box can give you all the information you could possibly want. So you get a sense of the 5-year average on the course, PGA Tour average across all courses, and then how the last 5 years have broken down here. And you can see an increase just for in this instance, driver usage, right? Driver usage in 2020, insane, south of 50%. Now everyone is gripping and ripping with no penalty. 72% driver usage on this course. The average drive has gone up almost 30 yards in the last 5 years at this event. Drives 320 plus is up 10%. Accuracy way down. No one gives a rip to find the fairways here anymore. It is it just happens basically. It doesn't seem to be any intentionality out of, being able to find the fairway here as well. But you can get into rough tendencies, all that different stuff, distance from the edge of the fairway. And this is just the off the tee bucket. So absolutely awesome tool to be able to get an understanding of, how this course is playing, how the course is trending, how players are playing it differently than years past. Andy, what are your thoughts here looking at this really for the first time live? You're muted.
Yeah, this is, I had to blow my nose, so I was muted, but it's interesting, like you said, to see the differences in how the tour treated this event, how they've kind of evolved to, and it's going to be different for different events. There's probably going to be some events that are pretty boring when we look at this. And it's like everyone's played this the same, but with the advent of the driver speed, the club head speed, and what we've seen just from the tour the last 5-10 years, it's crazy to see that go up. The average driving distance went from 285 to 313, and just how often they're using the driver. Under 50%, like you said, up to 72% driver usage, and 37% of drives weren't over 320 yards. And driving accuracy is down. The driving accuracy is down, but it's not as if scoring is. And it is turned into, like, bomb and gouge used to be something that some guys could do, and now it's something that most players can do, which is I mean, for this course, obviously, very impactful for the scoring.
And here we can go again to the drop down menu, jump to scoring here, and you look at the average PGA Tour event is a birdie or better rate of 21%, and we were at 33.4% here last year in an increasing 5-year average. Just absolutely bonkers. And again, you can get all this. You can get round by round scoring. You get a sense of, and again, there could be some wave weather stuff in that could be a little bit noisy, more descriptive than predictive, but definitely interesting to see, to get a sense of, birdie to bogey rate versus a PGA Tour average event is, 4.3 here versus 5-year or the, PGA Tour average of 1.4. I mean, you got to score here. It's absolutely nuts. In the 2020 event here, that's kind of, throwing out itself as an outlier. That was the JT win in 2020, which was winds. Yeah. So it's a little bit noisy, but still, remarkable to see, even over the last handful of years where you were still Harris English here, 2,500 in 2021, even what's evolved from there. This is just, really cool to look at. So again, we started with the driver off the tee stuff, but you can get into approach and see how approach is going from a proximity standpoint, get all the greens and regs stuff that you could possibly want. But then you can get into shot distribution, which I think is really, really cool when you start to think about modeling the golf and see, should I be looking at specific buckets of approach shot distribution versus just overall approach. I'm always of the mindset that this is a little bit noisy just because you might see these averages. It just, from a player level, I think is really hard to bake in the appropriate weight for, say, a Brian Harmon and a Wyndham Clark. I just don't believe in a lot of courses that, unless they're set to be playing from the same spot, they're going to be playing a different distribution of shots from different ranges based off of their off the tee game. But there could be instances where the data here is going to tell us. So I'm going to be able to back test my theory that doesn't matter as much, because I now have in one quick view the actual data to back that up, which is pretty sweet. There's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, there's a ton. And that's what we want to do. That's what we want to get after. Like we said, you can sit and listen to a bunch of previews that tell you, like, hey, here's the bucket of distances for approach you should be targeting this week, or you can read a bunch of previews. But, I think a lot of people like to go dig in themselves and look at that. And then, like you said, in kind of a roundabout way, add some context to that. Looking at a place where there's just not a lot of longer approach shots, for example, but then you have someone who's shorter off the tee that you like, realizing like the longer approach shots here are going to be difficult. And, maybe this isn't the week for my guy. That's kind of the end goal, is to give you as much data as possible to try to add as much context to make your decisions for betting and DFS. And it's funny because I haven't made a lot of decisions this week yet.
What else is the data? I mean, I'm excited for this. I think this is really useful to get a sense of, because you can just look at the tour average stuff, but then even how we land on the average at this course is probably very different than how we land on the average for a lot of other courses, because the majority of approach shots are going to come from like the 150 to 190 range on the average tour event, whereas here we have a higher distribution lower and a higher distribution higher. So where you get the average stuff, it just kind of comes out in the wash, but that doesn't really tell you the story, because you start to weigh yourself as an average event. You're telling yourself that, basically where the majority of the work gets done is in the range where they don't spend a lot of time here. So that's definitely something that, maybe this course more so than others, you probably need to be looking at the distribution at 200 plus and sub 125. Because you just don't spend a lot of time in the 150 to 175 bucket. So really, really cool stuff to look at. That's, overall approach proximity. You can get the proximity distance, which I think that really matters here. These are big greens. So greens and reg is a massive, massive number this week. Good drive percentage, all that stuff is just through the roof, like 90% plus. But, you got to be in the right spot on the green here. So, approach proximity mattering here a little bit more than normal.
Going back to that good driving percentage, if you want to explain that a little, if you remember, what was the driving accuracy? So driving accuracy is, 58.6. Not super high last year, but good drives gained was what, 90 you said?
90.5.
So the fact that you're missing the fairway 40+% of the time, but you're still hitting your greens in regulation 90% essentially from those is kind of speaks to the lack of teeth that we have here. There are an obscene amount of bunkers, but a lot of them just aren't really going to come into play a ton unless you really make some big mistakes. There are some really nasty, like canyons, wild areas. But again, unless you hit a duck hook that's 100 miles off course, they're not going to come into play a ton. And if you're hitting shots like that, you ain't going to win anyway.
Right.
I mean, the guys who are playing half decent golf kind of just have to bomb it and end up down there, and you're going to be fine. You're going to hit these greens, and you're going to have to just make a bunch of putts. And that's where I wonder if we should pop over to the rabbit hole and look at some spike putting stuff. I think that's an intro. Oh, you can look at it here too. And just this event, that'd be interesting to see what the putting stats look like for this event before we start looking at the putting stats for the players.
Are you ever a putting range guy? I don't think we've ever built a model with putting ranges in it.
Not really. I mean, bigger greens is different. I think we've done some stuff. So when there are bigger greens and maybe bigger greens, tough scoring conditions, then 3-putting really becomes a problem. Where it's like, hey, these are big greens, but they're not easy. They're quadrants. There's big undulations. They're tough grain. Where 3-putting is what's going to kill you because it's a course where you're absolutely grinding out these pars. And this one's a little different because, if you're 3-putting, you're dead, not just out of contention. You have to be making long putts. So I wonder about that. Looking at some of the guys who have some good long range putting. You're going to have to make your 15 to 20 footers.
Yeah, the approach putting, 3-putt avoidance from 25 plus feet, I think probably still matters here, even though the scoring conditions aren't hard. I think just because your greens and reg is going to be so high. So, you can't be in a spot where you're, giving shots back 3-putting here. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited about this, to be honest. Now that we're just kicking through it, like, the thoughts that I have in my head around some of this stuff being useless or, noisy, I'm going to be able to look and see if that actually is the case. And this is actually right here too, putting, 3-putt avoidance, 25 plus feet. Looks like it matters here a little bit more. Something to definitely to dig into. 1 percentage here, a little bit lower than the tour average. And that makes sense too, considering we have massive greens. Average distance of birdie putt is lower than the tour average. Again, interesting stuff that we again have the data to look at too. You can get into the weeds here on everything. You can see this little drop down, and again, you can go into the top and pick the different courses, and you can see here on the side too to pick the different metrics that you want to look at around the greens, scoring, par 3, par 4, par 5 scoring. You also get the past leaderboards that you can click into as well to see how they scored through all 4 rounds. You can click in previous years as well. So another new tool for us here on the site. Again, go into the very, very top on the site, click into the tools section, the drop-down menu. This is course stats. Again, our tournament cheat sheet is new. Course stats are new. And this is awesome, dude. I'm really excited about it. So yeah, let's play around the rabbit hole.
Yeah, right away, I want to just jump right in. No foreplay, right into spike putting.
I love that about you.
I want to see some guys who have had some big putting, and I don't know if we need to make splits for this. Maybe just change it up to the last 12 or 18 months. Because
should we just look at floor ceiling to start?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Floor ceiling for putting. So make it a bigger sample size, so I'm not just pulling in the end of the summer for a lot of these guys.
Sure.
And let's see what we have for, not just spike scoring, spike putting. So on the floor ceiling, you can look at any of the major strokes gained categories, and you find how often, what percentage of rounds is he gaining on the green. But more interestingly, in a putting contest, what percentages of rounds is a guy like this gaining 5 strokes on the green? Whereas, There's plenty of golfers who didn't do that. There's plenty of golfers who will never do that. So these are going to be small percentages, but it is interesting to see, you can sort by 2, by 3, by 4, by 5, and see some of these guys who've, consistently, like Grazerman, 12% of his rounds, he's gaining 3 strokes on the green.
It's crazy.
It's a big number. That is the biggest number. Wyndham Clark is the biggest one here. He's somebody who I've had circled for obvious reasons. Like, it is a course that just is, tailor fit for him. And this isn't helping me to stay away from him at all. But Grazerman was somebody else I looked at for similar reasons. And yeah, I think my card is quickly coming shape with this spike putting thing, just slapping it right in my face for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is just baseline putting last 18 months, so a very large sample size. Most of these guys are 80 plus rounds. Even Gracerman, who's a younger guy comparatively. Wyndham Clark, definitely a guy that I haven't clicked yet. Feel like I was close. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if I will add, but I get it. There's, again, no punishment off the tee. He hits in a mile. Creative short game. I mean, his short game, everyone, the poor guy. I mean, again, partially I'm biased because I had a 120 ticket at the US Open. All anyone remembers of that guy's week was the tee shot on the 72nd hole. That's all anyone thinks about, is that he hit that ball so far right that if that's at any other place, he's OB or it's unplayable. That guy played his balls off all week, scrambled his face off on Sunday. Absolutely incredible showing that week, but all everyone remembers is Wyndham just spraying it right. This is a great spot for him. Hard not to like, and you can see he's one of the only guys here, even sorting this by 1+ rounds. He's green across the board if you're watching this on YouTube, meaning that he's above average. Even as we get into 3+, 4+, 5+ strokes gained putting, that's pretty remarkable that, Wyndham has gained more than 4 strokes on the green in 5.5% of his rounds over the last 18 months. Is that the highest? It's bonkers. Yeah, it's the highest. Wyndham by far, lapping the field. Nick Taylor, I'm sorry. Matt McNeely, Denny, Ludwig, the next guys there on the list. So, and again, this is just baseline putting. Again, rabbit hole. You can add any condition that you want. So let's look at
change it to 3 years and look at Bermuda. I want a bigger sample for this because it's not it's common. I was going to say it's not uncommon, but I like a bigger sample. It's still 40 rounds.
Yeah, let's go 2 years. It's a pretty big sample still. You're going to get 60+ rounds for most of these guys.
Yeah, you get basically anything in the South.
Yeah.
Tropical.
Oh, well, there you go. I mean, so real small sample for Zalatoris. Putting there has not been great. And I think this is important too.
Weird.
Rule guys out that, do not pop here as well. Justin Thomas, the putting has been pretty atrocious for most of the last year plus. Not as bad as of late, but, interesting to see there for sure. Vic, when you're looking at just 2+. Again, Gracerman's still there. Cantley's still there. Clark's still there. Got her up pretty small sample. Russell Henley, we'll wait till we get to March and start banging the Russell Henley drum. Eric Cole, Kevin Yu, Alex Noren. You can see Dunlap in here, smaller sample. Sam Burns. Again, Sam Burns, absolutely probably in the lead when you look at just gaining strokes. Yeah, top of the board, just being positive on Bermuda. The spiked putting isn't happening quite as much, although when you get to 4+, he might be the king there. No, Wyndham Clark again. Wyndham Clark, Sam Burns, the largest rate of gaining 4 or more strokes putting over the last 2 years on Bermuda greens. So pretty, again, touched on this. People talk about spike putting weeks. You hear it all the time in DFS. Like, this is the data. What does that actually look like? How frequently does that happen? How much more frequently are you doing that than your peers? And I think this is super important to take a look at this week, more so than any others. So, yeah. Wyndham Clark is looking pretty good.
Let's build a quick model before we go start drinking for New Year's.
Let's do it. All right.
How simple or how complicated do we want? That's the fun part too for you. Again, we say this is not. I mean, it's for us too because we use this. But how simple and how complicated you want to make it is fun. Here's a fun thing too. Go to expert rankings. The Sentry by Andy Molitor. Look at the date on that.
I saw that.
January 3rd, 2004. This is the fun part, and this is going to be very fun for me. So I made a ton of models over the year. I thought about it. I'm like, I wonder if I have a model from last year because this is about the time we started really ramping up the rabbit hole. So this is my model from last year, which I have to ask Dev to let me add the feature where I can change the name of it because I'd like to change it to 24 so I'd remember. But go click into that. It's fun because I don't know that we built it on a show, but I definitely built this last year, and it was form, which is total. And yeah, I need to get that switched to where it auto populates the most current field when I'm using a super old model like this. But it was form, it was approach, and then just like short fairway shot. Basically, I looked at wedge stuff.
Yep.
Fairway 75 to 50 to 75, 75 to 100. Putting on Bermuda and birdies are better. And that's my third. I think that's my third guy. It might be Sam Burns this week too.
Yep. Sam Burns at the top of the model. Sam Burns second in my model last year. So I also looked at my Sentry model from last year. So yeah, he populated pretty well in that as well. So yeah, great feature. Again, make sure right now we'll get this fixed. It doesn't default to the current fields, but it's it's here right available for you in the top left just to go to the current field. So yeah, again, if you saw that too for the first time, this is a really cool feature where you can click in and see other models from other folks. Matt Vicenzi now with Sports Illustrated. You can see Andy Lack's model. I got my Sentry model. Typically the model that Ron and I build. I think I named it wrong, so it was weird. I didn't save the right way. But typically the model that Ron and I build on the Monday show is there. So and then now Tour Picks. Joe Idonia, who is you can find his podcast too. You can find his model here as well at Tour Picks on Twitter. You can click into Joe's model weekly now as well, which is exciting.
We're giving the E a little bit of a flair. Idonia.
Is it Idone? I don't know.
I don't know. I
would give it if that was my name. I'd give it.
I like it. I just don't know that I've been giving that last.
He's got to be. He looks like he's an Italian young man. That's probably
it feels like it. I mean, it starts and ends with a vowel. It's an Italian name.
Yeah,
but, all right. We're going with Idonia. I'm gonna have to ask this guy now.
Yeah.
All right. So we're looking at the Sentry field. We're gonna build a quick model. We got the golfers in here. What is the most important thing this week? And your number one key stat, Ryan Noonan, on the spot. The thing you have before we even do the model later. The thing you're going to weight the heaviest.
I am going to weight the heaviest. I'm going to go into the filter by condition section. I'm going to look at scoring conditions, and I want to look at performance on very easy golf course. I'm going to put average in there too. I basically don't want anything that you've done in the last couple of years at Pinehurst or the Open Championship or Augusta or Riv or Memorial, anything like that. I want to siphon all that out. I got to change my time frame because again, with the new signature events, the sample is smaller for a lot of the big dogs that are in this field. They're not playing the Barracuda. They're not playing in Mexico as much. So getting those guys out, I think, matters a ton. So you can see comparatively Eric Cole playing a lot more rounds on easy courses over the last 2 years than Colin or Xander. But I think having that data filtered out matters a ton. So you can talk to me about the sample size and the time frame and manipulating that differently. Let's see what happens when we get to a year. What's probably 30 rounds or so for most of the big guys, just probably okay with. Yeah, that's not bad. This is what matters the most to me this week. Who plays well when the ask is going to be upper 20s or 30s, right? Because this kind of captures it all in one. Would you agree? Would you have us in your top 3 at least? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm there with you.
Okay. All right. This is last 12 months easy scoring. I mean, I just think it's super important.
That's basically just form. Form when the going is easy. Like how well can you play when they put a course in front of you that is super scoreable?
Correct.
Yeah, what's my next? I mean, it's kind of an approach course, but everyone's gonna have such success. I don't know that we're gonna differentiate people with that. Should we put a putting stat in? Just right off the bat?
Yeah, putting or scoring, I can get sold on both for sure. I mean, I think we should have, again, this is probably more so than any time. We're really reluctant. We've definitely built, I'd say probably 40 to 50% of the models we built on the show over the past year doing this together have not even had putting in any way, shape, or form. Right. Like, and then this is a week where it's like, we probably need different iterations of putting, like putting baseline, putting on Bermuda, birdie or better rates, par 5 birdie or better rate. Like, you can tell me on all of those being really core stats this week. Cause it's kind of where we're at. You guys go back a little bit, just last 12 months, baseline putting. I feel like you're going to get Gracerman here based off of the spike putting week stuff that we saw. Denny
Gracerman second, Jason Day third, longtime flat stick aficionado. Xander and Pendrith, your top 5. I mean,
yeah, I said this on Monday. I don't know about you, but I'm going to have a hard time clicking Pendrith after the President's Cup debacle. It's really rough to feel super confident about Pendrith when the pressure's on a Sunday to win a golf tournament. Maybe some Pendrith finishing position bets, but not to win a golf tournament for a while here. Some confirmation bias. Thomas Dietrich played really well last spring. Made a note to remind myself of that to see if there's anything there. But putting really well too. Sam Burns, not surprised too. Ron has made the case for 3-putt avoidance from 25 plus feet being super important this week because we have massive greens just to look at who's doing well there. That's actually really good for JT, and that makes sense considering his history here. When you look at his baseline putting numbers being pretty atrocious. Henley, Xander.
Hell of a lag putter, though.
Hell of a lag putter. Not going to make the stuff he's supposed to make, but he's going to, not make a crooked number. Harmon, Bobby Mack, Si Woo, which is interesting too. So yeah, I mean, so many different iterations of putting mattering quite a bit here. So I'm going to put the 3-putt avoidance one.
All right.
Because I think that matters a ton. 25 plus feet. Because then what I want to do is do scoring, because I think that's going to do better than strokes gained and putting by itself. So you want to just do birdie or better rate? Excuse me. Par 5 scoring. What do you want to do here?
Probably just birdie. I don't want to focus too much on the 5s because
you got to score in the 4s too, right?
Yeah. There's very scoreable holes left and right. So just birdie or better rate. And you can put a split in there if you want. You can do something with the filtering.
I like it. I like it as is. I think one of the birdie making is a skill, right? Like it translates, I think, to, we've seen these guys that come from the Corn Ferry where they're required to do it, and they have some success early, especially when they get in these certain courses. Like you're just used to going low, and there's definitely places where you're riding out pars. Like we know Zalatoris can do it at a high rate. 12 under, 11 under is going to be the winning score for the week. That's not this week. That's not the ask here. So birdie or better rate last year.
Yes.
That's what we're doing today. We can do anything approach or off the tee.
Just ball striking. I mean, let's find a split with ball striking. Kind of combine them.
Okay.
Everyone here is a good ball striker. These are winners. These are people who are in the top 50. You're not going to have some schmucks when it comes to this. Someone's going to be ranked in the red, but they're still probably a, top 100 ball striker in the world.
Yeah. We can just do flat out ball striking.
I think so.
We have to mess around with it.
Give me who's just going to be hitting solid shots and then hitting solid second shots from the fairway or, the non-penal areas of the rough here.
Let's see what this is. I've never done this. I'm going to see if there's something to this. Should we mess around with fairway accuracy or how easy it is to gain around the green, or gain on approach, or green and reg accuracy high. I don't know. I don't typically mess with these filters.
You could do easy greens and reg. Like it's just, hey, here's a how are you doing on places where everyone's doing well?
Yeah.
Well,
because again, I'm looking at a year. I'm going to filter out. I just feel like, you can get on the wrong side of the wave advantage. And like, you were on the wrong side of the Friday Open Championship. That jacked up a ton of your data, right? Like we don't really want that in the data set, at all. So look, greens and reg, accuracy, easy and average. Looking at ball striking. Again, this is cross off Peter Mulnally, Jason Day, Davis Riley, Denny, Hadwin. Again, I think these are important things. This is not a good stat for Patrick Cantley. And this is a decent sample size over the last calendar year. On the other side of it, Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Aaron Rye, Xander Schauffele, Johnny Vegas, Corey Connors, we should always expect to be in the top 10 of a ball striking stat, Tony Finau, Davis Thompson, Siwoo, Ludwig, and Vic. So I like this. This is ball striking. Yeah, a little different. Last 12 months, greens and reg, easy. All right, this is fun. We're using some different stats, different filters. We can be done.
Yeah, let's put some weights to them. Let's see what we got and make some final decisions.
Click this little button, create our mixed condition model. I think I didn't pull any of my old stuff. Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff here. So that's a shame on me. That's a mistake. We got to pull all this is from my getting inside of my actual model that I have on the site here too. But yeah, so you can see some commonalities here as well. We're working on flipping the managed model section, so your most recent model will be on top, which is nice and easy for you. You come in here and you don't have to scroll to the bottom. We have 4 stats. I like this. This is our betting show preview model. Sentry. See that as an expert. Let's go. What do you think? 4 stats.
What did I say? You had to weight one the heaviest. So you better change that. You better change form on easy. Yep. Let's do that. Let's put putting the smallest. It's still putting. Like even less than that maybe.
Because we've got 2 putting stats here.
Let's go 15 and 15. Or 15 and 15 and then 20 on ball striking. Or 30, excuse me.
Yep.
All right. Save it, generate the model, and we will list off our top 20 now that we've built our model for the Xander Schauffele, number 1. Big surprise. He's very good at golf.
Yeah, not super surprising. Wyndham Clark was the number 1 in the model that Ron and I built yesterday, which is surprising. I thought he was going to be good, but I didn't think he was going to be number 1. Xander, Colin, JT, Aaron Rye, Davis Thompson are your top 5. Thigala 6, Wyndham 7, Hovland 8, Grayserman 9, Corey Connors 10.
We don't have a injury coefficient to add to this.
We do not.
For Victor Hovland's broken toe. That pinky
coach
toe
changed too.
Yeah, that didn't go so hot last time he split from Mayo.
No,
we'll see.
Here's the bottom of the model. Homa's got a new guy in the bag. I don't know what Joey's up to this week, but he's got Spieth caddy Michael Geller in the bag, which is interesting. People love Jake Knapp so much. Our little model does not love Jake Knapp here quite as much as the public does.
I like him as a golfer. I don't know that he can win this in this tour, or excuse me, in this field.
Yep, I agree. Dunlap not populating well, but scoring well here. Don't hate that. So, all right, Xander, Colin, JT at the top. Have you clicked anybody? Have you made a bet?
No, but it is going to be Burns. It's going to be Wyndham. It's going to be Grayserman.
I like it. Burns.
I think my one of my takeaways here is, sometimes we look at events like this where it's a top end field, let's say Augusta, or a top end field in a tough track, players, something like that. It's like it's so hard to go deep down the board here. It's there's some great golfers down the board, but it's very difficult to get too far from the chalk. Whereas, despite some very big names, Sander, Colin, JT, all these big names, multiple winners, major winners here, you can go to the 100-1 range immediately if you want to, because it is a putting contest. Somebody 100-1 won last year, 125 or better. Somebody 100-1 won a couple years back from there. But I mean, at the same time, you'll have Rahm. Rahm will win at 6-1. It can be a short winner, but you absolutely don't have to stay away from the long shots here. So go shopping in whatever part of the odds board you think offers you the best value.
Yeah, that's the tricky part too, right? We had the early season run last year where it's just triple digits winning every week until it wasn't, right? Until it was the Scotty season and, and then Xander got hot and then you're, dying chasing big numbers in 6-man cards. And you just should have probably been pumping it on Scotty or Xander every week. But interesting to see the top 3 names in the odds board come out at the top of our pretty basic, but I think efficient model. I mean, I think this is the beauty of the rabbit hole, right? You can definitely click into, Andy Lack's model, for instance, and you're going to have 15, 20 stats across the board. And you can kind of do it with
Ron as well. Ron likes to. Well, that's the thing. There's no wrong way to skin a cat except actually skinning a cat. That is animal cruelty. That's just do it how you want. And not only that, but you see that button. If you're listening to podcast form, you certainly don't. But there's a button in blue on the right that says download CSV. You can take this to a spreadsheet. You can start building out, taking this model and a different model and a third model and mixing them together in a spreadsheet. You can use it to work on your, matchup bets. You can work on your placement bets, anything you want. So have fun with that too, if you want.
Yeah. And that's actually a great tool to see the end result of the model, because it's going to give you actually a number for every player too. So you can actually see what the delta is between just the rankings. So you can get a sense of like, oh yeah, this is Xander's 1, Collins 2, but how big is the gap? That matters quite a bit too. So great feature that you can see when you click into the CSV. So yeah, that is good stuff. I like it. I like seeing some confirmation bias. Some guys that I've been definitely was flirting with that I didn't pull the trigger on populating well. It makes me a little nervous too. So Wyndham Clark, definitely one of those guys.
Johnny Vegas. I don't know if I can bet Johnny Vegas. Johnny Vegas, it's a good spot for him. And he is very inconsistent with the putter. If he putts well, he'll top 10 here. Just that's kind of the in and the out of it. He is such a good off the tee player and honestly a good approach player. His putting can just absolutely drain him sometimes. If he putts well, he might top 5. God damn it. Vegas top 10. I'm gonna look at that. That might make the card too. I'll have a newsletter out later today. We'll obviously have more content as we go. Like you said, if you have any feedback, let us know. If you want to try modeling yourself, it's always a good time. There's never a bad time. If you start right now, it is the 31st. A monthly subscription would it doesn't take you all the way through these 5 tournaments to the Sunday of trophy finishing. But it's the 31st right now, and the week of the AT&T, they kick it off on January 29th. And we have our fields up on Friday. If you want to start modeling, the field is going to be up on the Friday previous. So essentially $30, you can model the next 5 tournaments if you'd like. Definitely check that out if you want a promo code. Hit us in the DMs. We'll give you a promo code. We'll give it to you even cheaper. I might give you your first month for $10 if you want to just test it out. You just got to DM us, and I'll send you something. If you have a hot take on this tournament, leave it in the comments. Follow us on Twitter at BetSportsGolf. I'm at AndyMSFW. He's at RY Noonan. Anything else before we call it a year?
No, really excited about the additions to the site. I mean, I was super stoked about what we've done to it. And I think it's the absolutely best way to do this. You want picks? You want DFS player pool? There's a million of those. Teach a man to fish is the way to go ahead and take advantage of it. So if you want someone to feed you that, go find it somewhere else. This is a spot where you're going to be able to learn how to dig into the data and take advantage of it. So yeah, I'm super stoked about all this stuff.
All right. See you guys.